I love you, Rizzo, and if it's quite alright, I need you, Rizzo, to warm my lonely nights. Tree, 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 tree. That domestic. Ow, Rizzo! Just kicked me in the ribs. In a world of noise, one bulldog wrapped herself in a blue ocean of softness and contemplated the meaning of existence through life of pie. Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Bulldog Book Club, where I read to Rizzo and pretend she's listening. Today we're diving into a great passage in Life of Pi, a part where Pi starts to see the tiger, Richard Parker, not just as a threat but as something he loves. He needs him, fears him, and somehow also wants to protect him. It's this weird, beautiful relationship stuck on a lifeboat together in the middle of the ocean. And in this moment, you can really feel how much Pi needs connection, even if it's with a wild animal. I like this part because it marks the beginning of their bond, and honestly it reminds me of my relationship with Rizzo. She's obviously not a tiger, but there's something about needing each other in quiet ways, even when one of us looks unimpressed 90% of the time. And Rizzo's clearly still living the dream. She's currently lying on a blue blanket, looking like she's the one lost at sea. I think I first read this book when I was maybe 12 years old. I can't remember, but it was a long time ago in my young teenage years. And I've loved the book and I've loved the movie ever since. One boy, one boat, one tiger. After the tragic sinking of a cargo ship, a solitary lifeboat remains bobbing on the wild blue Pacific. The only survivors from the wreck are a 16-year-old boy named Pi, a hyena, a zebra with a broken leg, a female orangutan, and Richard Parker, a 450-pound Royal Bengal tiger. The scene is set for one of the most extraordinary and best-loved works of fiction in recent years and the inspiration for Ang Lee's Oscar-winning film. It's a very emotional book to me. Looks like it could be me and Rizzo on that boat. Grab a blanket, grab a bulldog if you have one, and let's get into it. Chapter 57. It was Richard Parker who calmed me down. It is the irony of this story that the one who scared me witless to start with was the very same who brought me peace, purpose, I dare say even wholeness. He was looking at me intently. After a time I recognized the gaze. I had grown up with it. It was the gaze of a contented animal looking out from its cage or pit the way you or I would look out from a restaurant table after a good meal, when the time had come for conversation and people watching. Rizzo, what are you digging in there? Clearly, Richard Parker had eaten his fill of hyena and drunk all the rainwater he wanted. No lips were rising and falling, no teeth were showing, no growling or snarling was coming from him. He was simply taking me in, observing me, in a manner that was sober but not menacing. He kept twitching his ears and varying the sideways turn of his head. It was all so, well, cat-like. He looked like a nice, big, fat domestic. Ow, Rizzo! Just kicked me in the ribs. Made a sound, a snort from his nostrils. I pricked up my ears. He did it a second time. I was astonished. Then, tigers make a variety of sounds. They include a number of roars and growls, the loudest of these being most likely the full-throated "wah," usually made during the mating seasons by males and oisterous females. It's a cry that travels far and wide and is absolutely petrifying when heard close up. Tigers go woof when they are caught unawares. A short, sharp detonation of fury that would instantly make your legs jump up and run away if they weren't frozen to the spot. When they charge, tigers put out throaty, coughing roars. The growl they use for purposes of threatening has yet another guttural quality, and tigers hiss and snarl, which, depending on the emotion behind it, sounds either like autumn leaves rustling on the ground, but a little more resonant, or, when it's infuriated, snarl, like a giant door with rusty hinges slowly opening, in both cases, utterly spine-chilling. Tigers make other sounds too. They grunt and they moan, they purr, not only as melodiously or as frequently as small cats, and only as they breathe out. And tigers can be utterly, majestically silent. That too. A puff through the nose to express friendliness and harmless intentions. Richard Parker did it again, this time with a rolling of the head. He looked exactly as if he were asking me a question. I looked at him, full of fearful wonder. There being no immediate threat, my breath slowed down. My heart stopped knocking about in my chest and I began to regain my senses. I had to tame him. It was at that moment that I realized this necessary. It was not a question of him or me, but of him and me. We were, literally and figuratively, in the same boat. We would live or we would die together. He might be killed in an accident or he could die shortly of natural causes, but it would be foolish to count on such an eventuality. More likely the worst would happen. The simple passage of time in which his animal toughness would easily outlast my human frailty. Only if I tamed him could I possibly trick him into dying first. If we had to come to that sorry business, but there's more of it. I will come clean. I will tell you a secret. A part of me was glad about Richard Parker. A part of me did not want Richard Parker to die at all, because if he died, I would be left alone with this bear, a foe even more formidable than a tiger. If I still had the will to live, it was thanks to Richard Parker. He kept me from thinking too much about my family and my tragic circumstances. He pushed me to go on living. I hated him for it, yet at the same time I was grateful. I am grateful. It's the plain truth. Without Richard Parker, I wouldn't be alive today to tell you my story. I looked around the horizon. Didn't I have here a perfect circus ring, inescapably round without a single corner for him to hide in? I looked down at the sea. Wasn't this an ideal source of treats with which to condition him to obey? I noticed a whistle hanging from one of the life jackets. Wouldn't this make a good whip with which to keep him in line? What was missing here to tame Richard Parker? Time? It might be weeks before a ship sighted me. I had all the time in the world. Resolve? There's nothing like extreme need to give you resolve. Knowledge? Was I not a zookeeper's son? Reward? Was there any reward greater than life? Any punishment worse than death? I looked at Richard Parker. My panic was gone. My fear was dominated. Survival was at hand. Let the trumpets blare. Let the drums roll. Let the show begin. I rose to my feet. Richard Parker noticed. The balance was not easy. I took a deep breath and shouted, "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hurry to your seats. Hurry, hurry. You don't want to be late. Sit down, open your eyes, open your hearts and prepare to be amazed. Here it is, for your enjoyment and instruction, for your gratification and edification, the show you've been waiting for all your life. The greatest show on earth. Are you ready for the miracle of it? Yes! Well then, they are amazingly adaptable. You've seen them in freezing, snow-covered temperate forests. You've seen them in dense tropical moonstone jungles. You've seen them in sparse, semi-arid shrublands. You've seen them in brackish mangrove swamps. Truly, they would fit anywhere. But you've never seen them where you are about to see them now. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, without further ado, it is my pleasure and honor to present to you the Pai Patel Indo-Canadian Trans-Pacific Floating Circus! Tree, tree, tree! I had an effect on Richard Parker. At the very first blow of the whistle, he cringed and he snarled. Ha! Let him jump into the water if he wanted to. Let him try. Tree, 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 tree! He roared and he clawed the air, but he did not jump. He might not be afraid of the sea when he was driven mad by hunger and thirst, but for the time being, it was a fear I could rely on. Tree, 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 tree! He backed off and dropped to the bottom of the boat. The first training session was over. It was a resounding success. I stopped whistling and sat down heavily on the raft, out of breath and exhausted. And so it came to be. Plan number 7. Keep him alive. I like that passage. Thank you everyone for joining us on another episode of Bulldog Book Club. We'll see you next time.